Today we're going to be following up the web design theory we started last time, comparing files and talking about compression, and we're just going to kind of go on about the Copyright Design and Patents Act. So we're going to be looking at laws today, and although this is under web design, just while we're talking about laws, I want to cover the GDPR, which is under databases. Now they're two different topics, but I think it just makes sense to cover them both because they're both, well, laws. So I'll just jump into it. The first one won't take very long. So copyright, basically it started in 1988. This is specific to the UK, but every country has it, as in they have their own version of copyright laws. Some of them are a bit more lax. Sweden is a bit infamous for that. It has slightly more lax laws in regard to copyright, but basically every country has something similar. The whole point of it is if you make something, it's not stolen, and then somebody doesn't just like post it online and gain a bunch of money from it. Like if you had a piece of art and then somebody puts it on Instagram and somehow makes money from that, then this is the idea that it's yours and you're able to protect it. So if somebody does steal your work, they can get a fine, but you can also get financial compensation. I'm assuming that comes out of the fine, just because it's your stuff. Copyright lasts for 70 years after you die, probably because you're not going to care once you're dead, and your relatives won't even care maybe by that point. After this point, it enters, like say you made a book or something like that, it enters the public domain. The public domain is just something that can be used and adapted by anyone. So this is why there is, I think it was a few years ago, there was multiple Snow White films. I think it was actually 2 Snow White films that came out in the same year. And people normally associate Snow White with Disney, but neither of them had anything to do with Disney. And this is because of that. Like Snow White was written so long ago, the author died more than 70 years ago, and it's in the public domain now. So anyone can use it, can make a movie about it or whatever. When you're adding, well, there's different types of multimedia for a website. We need to be cautious about copyright with graphics, text, audio, and video. Not too much to say here. You just need to remember what they are. I've highlighted these letters because I heard from someone else a weird way to think about it is GTA 5, so graphics, text, audio, and video, and hopefully that'll help you remember it. Some things to consider: if you've added music or video to your website, did you pay for it? Is it free to use? Should you be adding it to your website? Is the text on the website your own? So did you, and if it's not, did you reference where it came from? Even if it's like not exactly your own and you've just reworded it slightly or just taken from various places, you probably should still reference it anyway, just to be on the safe side. And what are the usage rights of the image? So some images you shouldn't be just adding to PowerPoints or whatever. You should be looking for the free to use ones. So if you want to know how to get to this, you can go on Google and search for whatever you want. Obviously you're going to search dogs, and then from there you just click on settings and go advanced search, and then down at the bottom here you get to usage rights, and you can actually select them, and you've got free to use or share, free to use or share even commercially, so you can make money off of it, free to use or share or modify. Now technically if you made a meme and edited an existing image, unless it comes under this, you're technically breaking copyright law. I'm not sure how strict Google is with this. Like maybe some people don't add licenses to their images, but this is to stay safe if you want to think of it like that. So if you picked free to use, share, or modify with dogs, you would get these images as opposed to those ones. Weirdly, there's a lot of Labradors here, and as soon as you go free to use or share, German Shepherds start popping up. So think of that. I don't even know what that's about, to be honest. But yeah, that's how you do it. So part 2 is GDPR. There's a little bit more to talk about here. So it stands for the General Data Protection Register, and it came into play in May 2018, and it updated a 20-year-old law. I remember this date very well because in May 2018, I remember teaching Data Protection Act to a third-year class, and then the next day GDPR started, and I didn't realise it was starting. To be fair, Data Protection Act and GDPR are very similar. They're both designed to protect your data. This one is just, what we're talking about today is just protects more online data, which this one in 1998 didn't have because the internet wasn't as big back then. It was barely alive. It applies to every country in Europe or the European Union, and Brexit will not affect this. So even though the UK is leaving Europe, this will still affect us. We have 6 key principles to be aware of, and if you break any of them, again, fines can be applied. I don't know if you can go to prison over it. Maybe you can, but yeah, fines can be applied. And the whole point of this is just to protect your personal data as we go into a digital age or a more digital age. So what are examples of personal data? You've got your basic details. I don't know if this is the official term, I've just put that here. So you've got your name, date of birth, standard things you see on websites that ask you. Online specific details such as usernames, email addresses, and your IP address. So your IP address is just where your computer physically is. Cookies, that's some people think they're really bad. They're not necessarily. It's just if you go on, say you go into Amazon and you're shopping for cookies, and you go to another website and you start seeing cookie advertisements down the side. Well, that's cookies at work, because what they do is they track your browsing habits. They do a few other things as well, like remembering your passwords and that, but that is an online detail we need to protect. And when a website, you'll see in recent years, a website will ask, do you want to accept cookies? The one they're talking about is like browser cookies that are watching what you're looking at. The websites should put that before you go on them now, just because that's what GDPR wants. It's to protect your personal data, and your browsing habits are considered personal data. There's also sensitive details. There's a whole bunch of these, like health records and religious beliefs. They're a bit more specific. Right, what's the first principle? Data must be processed lawfully, fairly, and transparently. So by lawfully, we obviously mean not illegal, not sold, so we're not selling data to anyone. We'll talk about that in a little bit the next slide. Not abused, so it'd be pretty creepy if you looked at somebody's data to find out their address. So that's what the lawfully part means. Fairly means you can't use it against people. If you sign up to a website, sometimes it will ask you to state your ethnicity, and it will even say, well, some of them will say, this won't be used against you. I don't know why they ask, to be fair, but it needs to be used fairly. You can't, I don't know, be racist to someone based on the data they give you, for example. Transparently means they have to tell you what they're doing with it. So they shouldn't be doing shady business and not telling you. Right. Number 2 is data must be used for the declared purpose only. So you can't sell it for whatever reason. The reason I've got a logo of Facebook up here, you might remember when Mark Zuckerberg was involved in a Facebook scandal because they said that they used their data to influence the US elections, and yeah, that like GDPR doesn't apply to Americans. They have like an equivalent. I think it's a bit more relaxed, but it's to protect stuff like this happening. This is the most high profile case. Interestingly, Mark Zuckerberg once said this I'll just let you read that. Don't want to lose my job. So just makes you think what is being what your data is being used for, and this is why GDPR is put in place to help protect us for reasons like this. Right. Data must be relevant and limited to what is really needed. So by relevant, it's better to just talk about examples, like why would your car insurance company your car insurance company will ask for your driving license details, but why would your bank need it? Same with limited. No one should be asking for your mother's maiden name, because that's obviously a common password reset question. And then this is an example I've just made up, but like, why would eBay need to know your political opinions? If eBay started asking that, that'd be pretty weird. This is also known as data minimization. The whole point of this is to minimize. So this principle that is known as data minimization. Whole point is to minimize how much data you've got. You can hold data about people, but you shouldn't have unnecessary data. You should only have the data that you need. 4 is just to keep it correct and up to date. So you have the right to fix any, like say your last name was spelt wrong, you can fix it. Say you've just changed your last name for whatever reason, you can change that as well, and any other things need kept up to date. 5 is data cannot be kept longer than necessary. So most data has an expiry date. I know for schools, I think it's as soon as you leave school, they have to delete a certain amount of data, and then I think it's 7 years or something like that after. They hold like a bit of data about you just so they can find out about, I guess, the area, but they can't hold everything. They have to get rid of quite a lot of it. Good example of this is in our school. Mr. McDowell, the old head teacher, he used to actually go to the school as a pupil. So if you could imagine, if he had all the data and it never got deleted, he'd be able to see all the personal details about his old schoolmates, which would be just seems wrong. So not saying he would do that, but it's having an expiry date prevents things like this from happening. Last one is data needs to be held securely, so make backups, whether it's just, it's debatable whether a portable hard drive is secure because it could be stolen, but even just having the backup there in case it's lost. And same with backup servers or on the cloud. You can actually, companies can be fined for potentially just losing data. It should be encrypted. So if you did have a little hard drive lying around, it should be encrypted to get protection from hackers. And customers, we're actually going to be talking about encryption in a little bit, another lesson. Customers must be verified, so the most common one is passwords, but remember, although we're talking about it from a computing perspective, even like if you phone up a company and over the phone they have to like ask you before like you go into your account details, like what is your name, what is your date of birth, what is your address, and they ask you these quick fire questions to see if you actually are who you say you are. So that's just everything summed up. A summary slide, I'm not going to go over that again. Your rights, so you're a data subject. Anyone with data held about them is considered a data subject. You have the right to be told data is held about you. You have the right to see that data. You have the right to change that data or even object to it being held. Additionally, once you've seen the data, if you don't want it, you can erase that data. If you get cold callers phoning you up, you should be able to ask them to delete your data, delete your phone number. Don't know if they actually do, but you should be able to erase that data. And now some of these have exceptions, of course, that you can't delete your police records if you had a criminal record, but most data you should be able to do that. There are a few exceptions. Same with exam results. You couldn't demand to see your exam results early, for example. Last one is move data to different companies. We've talked about that before. It's a bit of a niche one, but like if you moved bank or car insurance company or whatever, you have the right to move your data. For further viewing, I have this video here. I quite like it. A lot of my information it covers a lot of the same stuff because I just thought it was so informative. I did use this to help make this. Saying that, it's very fast. It goes into a lot. Some of the things it goes into is excess detail, for like goes into carving shivets in quite a bit of detail, and it's a bit fast, but it is useful. So that's there if you need another perspective. Right. Oh no, don't play. Right, and then there's a task as usual. Right, thank you very much for listening.